Yeah, what's up, baby? What's up, baby? Hey, we made it. What's up? Alrighty, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? So, yeah, we just made it home from lockup down there in Calvert County. What a fucking experience that was. So,
stop breaking the law, asshole!
Welcome to the Dummy Kruger channel, everyone. Today we are doing a follow-up on the recent arrest of Annapolis Audits. We will be looking at some of his response to the arrest, how he bends the truth to fit his narrative in front of his viewers, as well as to look to see if that arrest carries even more ramifications due to a recent plea deal he just took a couple of weeks ago. Let's first watch his response, then dive deeper into what it could actually mean for Tiny Terry, as well as take a peek at his other cases he has pending. I'll just say this. Terry is certainly going to have a really busy couple of months.
you violated that, and I was just like, okay, well, what law am I in violation of? Can you give me a law that I'm in violation of? And he comes back like 10 minutes later and he goes, yeah, it's trespassing. Well, he didn't even know the statute number, so I had to give it to him. I'm like, actually, yeah, that's Maryland 6-409, and it's section, I believe it's section 2, paragraph B, that deals with trespassing in a public agency. And it says that an authorized agent of the state has the ability and or I guess is authorized to ask someone to leave from a public agency if that person appears to have no legal and lawful business, and or that person is acting in a manner that is disruptive to the flow of business, is I believe the exact verbiage in the statute. And what's crazy is, so ultimately they charged me with trespassing at a public agency and disobeying a lawful order.
Let's take a look at both of these statutes, because Terrence here doesn't believe he broke either. If you haven't seen the arrest video quite yet, please see the description below. So the first statute is the trespassing in a public agency during business hours. A person may not refuse or fail to leave a public building or grounds or specific part of a building or grounds during regular business hours if 1. The surrounding circumstances would indicate to a reasonable person that the person who refuses or fails to leave has no apparent lawful business to pursue at the public building or grounds, or is acting in a manner disruptive of and disrupting the conduct of normal business by the government unit that owns, operates, and maintains the building or grounds. I suppose he could at least argue his, quote, lawful business was to drop off some nonsense letter of intent to sue that means absolutely nothing. But when he goes back in to obtain the doctor's birth date and address, I believe it can be argued he no longer had any business in the building, particularly after the officers advised him they would not be giving such information out as they didn't believe an assault took place. Because it didn't. The second one is seemingly open and shut. He was, at least in my opinion, disrupting the conduct of normal business by filming in a location where a policy clearly states isn't allowed. A policy they are legally able to have as a health department is not a traditional public forum. A person may not willfully fail to obey a reasonable and lawful order that a law enforcement officer makes to prevent a disturbance to the public peace. The officers ordered him multiple times to discontinue filming where he wasn't legally allowed to. They even went so far as to contact the state's attorney to confirm.
And it's like, you guys heard them multiple times say, we're asking you to leave. I'm asking you to leave. Okay, well, asking someone something as a request, that's not a lawful order. A lawful order would be, sir, you need to leave this building now or you're going to be arrested. That's a lawful order. Going, oh, well, I'm asking. That's a request. That's not a lawful order. So how can I disobey a lawful order if you didn't give one? Absolutely. No, I'm going to 100% file charges. There was no lawful orders broken. First off, there was no lawful order given. Second off, there was no lawful order that was ignored because, again, it wasn't given.
Orders were given on dozens of occasions. You just decided to ignore them. Let's take a quick look at a couple of those.
Yes, I am.
Sir, we spoke to the state's attorney's office for Calvert County, and you're saying that this building is protected and you cannot be.
It's not protected. It's a public building.
Well, that's what we're letting you know.
Okay.
So if you don't stop, then you're going to be charged.
Okay. No, I don't.
So what's happening now is now you're being asked
Okay. I'm being asked?
to leave.
Okay. I'm being asked.
You're being asked to leave.
So that's a request, and I have the right to respectfully decline it?
So if you don't leave, all you do know that that is trespassing.
And the officer is absolutely correct. If one, he no longer has any lawful business, or he is disrupting the conduct of normal business at the government unit, and two, an authorized employee of the government unit asks the person to leave. Okay, now let's take a look at what he says about the alleged assault that took place at the health department.
You're not allowed to be videotaping here. And I was like, okay, well, why wouldn't I? This is a public lobby. And he reached out and grabbed my camera. So I pulled it back and I'm like, yo, don't touch my camera. Don't touch my property. That's an extension of my body. And if you taunt me again, I will have to defend myself. Well, he turns to the lady and he's like, hey, call 911. Call 911. Look, my hair's all fucked up. He's like, call 911. Call 911. I'm like, call 911 for what? You just assaulted me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Call 911. Absolutely. So they call 911 and play the victim. I just been assaulted. How y'all going to arrest me when this man assaulted me and attacked me? I got attacked by the deputy health director, Dr. Pawlowski. Maybe it's a sign to stop auditing. No, absolutely not. I think this is a sign that I need to go out there and audit more. If shit's like this going to happen where a county employee can attack a citizen, then call the police and play the victim and get the dude arrested for simply asking for the guy's information so I can go file charges accordingly, then no, we need to audit. We need to audit 3 times as much as I've been doing. Like, it's clear that no one is learning shit.
After all the arrests Tiny Terry has racked up in all of his pending cases we will be briefly looking over at the end of the video, it's crystal clear he hasn't learned shit. Let's also take a look at this alleged assault. Now, before we do, I have to advise you, this is tough to watch, so please avert your eyes if you have any ongoing health issues or are overly squeamish. Also, if there are any children in the room, please remove them now.
Blazing, ready to treat someone like
We came out nice and blazing. It's a bit
you,
of an
you boys
overreach.
did. You guys have 6 officers out here right now.
It's guns and blazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that?
Here we go.
Oh, please, don't touch my equipment, sir.
You need to turn that off.
Okay, but you're not allowed to touch my equipment. This is my property. This is an extension of my body, and that is assault and battery. Do not touch my property again, or I will be forced to defend myself.
We want to rewind this being and watch him do it again.
Yeah, so that was it. Guys, I know, I truly apologize for showing you something as graphic as this. I just felt it was necessary in the name of transparency. If you need to unsub from my channel, I would completely understand. Let's see where else he tries to bend the truth to fit his narrative.
They accepted my documentation at one point and I left, but then I forgot, oh man, I didn't get that guy's information. So I went back to get it. What's funny is when I get down to the commissioner and they release me on my own recognizance, I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, listen, man, I had actually intended on coming down here and filing some charges. So what all information do I need? Can I just come down here and tell you somebody's last name and their title as a doctor and that just be good enough with their work address? And the commissioner was like, no, you need a first and last name and an approximate age, like at least a general age. And I'm like, okay, because that's kind of what I said. And they told me, no, yeah, that's the information that you need if you want to file some charges on somebody. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's kind of what I said and why I'm in this situation. So yeah, I wasn't wrong. Literally, I needed that information. I have a legal right to that information. They should have went and ID'd him.
So when he goes to attempt to file charges after this brutal attack, he learns exactly what he needs to file those charges. A name, which he had, and an approximate age, which he could have guessed. He claims during his response video that this was the information he was trying to gather when he went back into the health department right before being arrested. Do we think that's exactly true?
That was kind of my argument to it all.
Okay, sir. All right, so what's the
Appreciate
business
it.
you...
I just need that guy's information so I could file those charges accordingly at the commissioner's office.
So it's Dr. This is not it. This is actually a copy of your paper.
Oh, well, that wasn't for you.
So it's Dr. Polsky.
Well, the paperwork wasn't for you. Why do you have a copy
So
of
it's
mine?
Dr. Polsky.
Polsky? Okay. And his birth date and his address?
I don't have
I need all of that information to file charges. Sir, you know I need that information to file charges to the commissioner's
I
office.
don't have that for you.
Okay, well, we're going to have to go get that because he's right here, and I just showed your captain evidence of him assaulting me in my property.
Okay. Well, we don't have that for you.
You can go get it.
All right, we don't have that for you.
So the Calvert County Sheriff's Department
providing that
is in
information.
dereliction of duty. But, sir, you're the law enforcement officer. He's
not
legally
providing-
obligated to give it to you.
He's not providing
Terrence, for unknown reasons, was demanding the birth date and address of this doctor because he claims it's a necessity for him to file charges, which we just learned from his own mouth is absolutely false. Yet he was still trying to say that to his viewers. Later, he gives us some insight on how he plans on fighting these charges. Let's take a look at this brilliant legal mind at work, shall we?
Did refuse/fail to leave Calvert County Health Department, a property of Calvert County government, a public agent. Hold on now. In the first line of the fucking charging document, literally, listen to this. ... Did refuse/fail to leave Calvert County Health Department, comma, a property of Calvert County government, comma, a public agency during regular business hours upon being requested to do so by an authorized employee when the defendant had no apparent lawful business to pursue / was acting in a manner disruptive and disturbing the conduct of normal business hours. So you acknowledge that it's a public agency. You acknowledge that it was during regular business hours, but then you try and lie and say that I didn't have any legal and lawful business. Yes, I did. It was called identifying my attacker so that I can file charges accordingly. I also have legal and lawful business called gathering content for a story if I want to in that public agency.
I just love that he thinks he broke this case wide open because the charging document says exactly what transpired, where it transpired, and exactly how his actions were a violation. Yet he thinks because they said exactly where it happened, in a public building, that this was some sort of bad arrest. My brain hurts at times trying to get in the mind frame of these people. He also went on multiple rants about them taking his camera equipment and phone for evidentiary purposes, but was somehow surprised by this. Why was he surprised? I'll never know. It's literally what happens on almost every arrest of a First Amendment auditor, but he used this fact to do a little e-begging. And it worked because of fooling of his money. Well, you know what they say. He also goes into detail about how he got home when he was released, which is pretty interesting.
The worst part is they kept both my cameras, my GoPro 10, my GoPro 11, and my cell phone. They have kept all of my equipment in lockup when I got. It was a very long walk, and I was very cold. And as I started to walk, I got very, very lightheaded. Because you guys know I'm going through treatment, and I hadn't had my medicine or food all day, and I felt very, very weak. So I needed medical attention. So they had to call an ambulance for me. And it just so happened to be that where the ambulance was going to, my car happened to be parked at as well. So worked out conveniently for me. But
this is the perfect example of how you know a lot of these people are just in it for themselves. They can pretend they are fighting for others' rights all they'd like, but the proof is pretty obvious. I guarantee you, he has no idea how much an ambulance ride costs or how much an ER visit can cost. Yet he makes it sound like he just used this excuse of needing to go to the hospital to get a lift closer to his car. And will this man ever see that bill? I highly doubt it. The taxpayers will probably be covering his little ambulance ride to the hospital. It's amazing how much he hates the government and how he treats these employees with such disdain, yet leeches off these programs which benefit him. Another example of him siphoning money from the taxpayers is his use of a public defender. He has an extensive criminal record of almost 40 charges. Granted, a few of them are simple traffic violations, but on his criminal cases, he uses a public defender each and every time. Terry, maybe instead of pretending to hold government officials accountable, it's time you hold yourself accountable because you are assuredly costing the taxpayers much more money than you are contributing. That is, if you're contributing anything at all. Let's now switch gears a little to see what other possible ramifications this arrest may have. On January 9th of this year, Terry gives us an update on one of his cases.
All right, so I'll go ahead and give you all a little update. So today's court date was for the incident at the MVA that took place, God, it was probably back in like May. Ultimately, we get up here today and the state had offered a stet docket. Now, ultimately, the stet docket is not an admission of guilt. It's ultimately you and the state agreeing that you're both not going to go to trial on this, that maybe they do or don't have enough evidence to convict you. Actually, I think that would be an Alford plea. Ultimately, the state doesn't have enough evidence to convict me. So we took a stet docket.
And ultimately what that means is in the next 3 years, as long as I don't commit any other crimes or any serious offenses, this will get wiped off the record. It is not a guilty plea. It's also not a not guilty though. And that's kind of what upset me, is I didn't really want to take the plea deal for the stet docket. At least in this way, I can take the stet docket, not plead that I'm guilty, but also not have to worry about the state wrongfully convicting me. These are the same people that are charging me multiple different cases with crimes that I did not commit. So
Terry is correct here. A stet, meaning let it stand in Latin, is used for a multitude of reasons. But the important part for Terry is this case can now be reopened if the prosecutor so chooses. I want to be clear, it doesn't mean it will, it just means that he broke the conditions of the stet and legally it can be reopened. If there's an update on this, I'll be sure to share it. So not only is Terry now facing charges for this brand new arrest, with the possibility of this case being reopened because he broke the conditions of his stet, he also has multiple other trials on the horizon. Let's take a look at all of those. He has one case driving on a suspended license, because of course he does. On March 2nd of this year, he has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 7 total misdemeanor charges he's going to trial for. After that March trial, he has another trial scheduled for April 20th, 2023. For that case, he's charged with assault in the second degree and resisting/interference with arrest. And last but certainly not least, he has another jury trial scheduled for February 8th of this year. It's for theft over $100, but under $1,500. Whew, that was exhausting just reading everything. Our boy Tiny Terry sure does have a lot on his plate. It is absolutely wild to me that he is still out there causing trouble with the amount of charges and cases he's currently dealing with. Watch this space for updates, because there very well may be a lot of them. Before we go, please do consider subscribing, notifying, liking, and commenting below. This is Dummy Kruger, and I'll see you guys on the next one.